Beyonce is allegedly in full-blown damage control tonight because the one woman insiders say was paid to vanish from the face of the earth just blew the doors off a vault that was welded shut for over 20 years. And what came tumbling out of that vault is the kind of thing PR firms have nightmares about. An alleged hidden child. A young son who never made it home. A mistress who reportedly died days before she was scheduled to talk. And a trail of whispers that allegedly runs straight up the steps of the most protected throne in modern music. And before this video ends, you are going to hear the exact words a grieving mother said on camera about why she believes her boy was taken from her. Words that allegedly point directly at Beyonce and Jay-Z. So stay locked in, because this goes so much deeper than the blogs ever dared to print. Because if there is one thing the whole world understands about Beyonce, it is that nothing around Beyonce ever happens by accident. For more than 2 decades, she has run what might be the tightest image operation entertainment has ever seen. Every photograph approved. Every interview negotiated. Every chapter of her life released on her timeline and nobody else's. That level of control is exactly why a moment like this one is so dangerous for her. For Beyonce, a leak is never just gossip. A leak is a fracture in a product that was engineered to never fracture. And the people inside that machine know that the second the public spots one crack, everybody starts tapping on the walls looking for the rest of them. And standing right beside her through all of it is Jay-Z, the self-made hustler who turned his own history into scripture. Jay-Z built a legend about a man who allegedly outran everything that ever chased him. The Carter empire depends on both of those stories staying spotless at the same time. And that is exactly why what is unfolding right now matters so much more than a typical scandal cycle. Now, when Jaguar Wright first started aiming at Beyonce and Jay-Z a couple of years back, most of the industry wrote her off as a bitter artist shouting into the wind. That was the easy version of the story, the comfortable version. But with everything pouring out right now, that comfortable version is collapsing in real time. Because it is starting to look like this was never only about what the Carters allegedly did to other people. According to her, it is about what was allegedly done to her. And more specifically, what was allegedly done to keep one child invisible forever. Just for some quick context, because the timeline here matters more than anything else in this story. The connection between Jay-Z and Jaguar Wright goes all the way back to 2001. Before the empire. Before the chaos. Back when Jaguar was one of the most respected soul voices in the entire OK Player movement, moving with the roots and earning cosigns from the most serious musicians alive. When Jay-Z taped his now legendary MTV Unplugged session, he did not call just anybody to stand behind him. He called her because he was reportedly floored by her voice. That single performance turned into real momentum. Her 2002 debut album, Denials, Delusions and Decisions, led to tour dates alongside Jay-Z himself, and reportedly, serious conversations about her signing to Rockefeller Records. She was standing at the very door of superstardom. And then, nothing. The deal evaporated. The door slammed. And for years, nobody could explain how an artist that hot, that connected, that endorsed, got frozen out of the game overnight. Well, according to Jaguar, she now says she knows exactly why. She claims that during her time inside Jay-Z's orbit, she witnessed him tangled up in situations with other industry power players, including Diddy, that made her want no part of any of it. She says she walked away from the biggest opportunity of her entire life because of what she allegedly saw behind those closed doors. And remember what that means. This was a woman standing one signature away from everything she had ever worked for. Walking away from a Rockefeller situation in 2002 was not a business decision. In her telling, it was an act of survival. And here is where this flips from interesting to flat-out disturbing. The allegation now making the rounds is that during that exact window, Jay-Z allegedly got Jaguar pregnant. And the claim goes further, alleging that he and Beyonce worked in tandem to make absolutely certain that child stayed hidden from the world. Look at the calendar and your stomach drops. The window of Jay and Jaguar's working relationship reportedly lines up almost perfectly with the period when Jay-Z and Beyonce first stepped out publicly as a couple. A brand new power union being sold to the planet as destiny, and allegedly, somewhere off in the shadows, a woman carrying his baby. Word is, Beyonce's camp allegedly offered Jaguar an arrangement. Disappear. Stay quiet. And in exchange, she would be permitted to live her life in peace. Sit with that for a second. The implication is that silence was never a request. It was allegedly a survival term. And hold on to your seat here, because Beyonce has a rumored pattern that industry circles have whispered about for years. A pattern of Jay-Z's alleged mistresses being erased one way or another, especially the ones who ended up pregnant. And if even a fraction of that whisper network is accurate, then Jaguar allegedly being offered any deal at all might have been the lucky outcome. Because allegedly, not everybody got an offer. Because according to the rumor mill that has trailed the Carters for over a decade, Kathy White was allegedly not the first woman to drift close to Jay-Z and then vanish off the board entirely. Industry insiders have whispered for years about an alleged rotation of women and about the strangely final way some of those stories ended. And it was not always about tragedy. Sometimes it was about silence purchased outright, careers quietly redirected, names gently scrubbed out of rooms those women once walked through without an escort. But the Kathy White chapter has always been the one that refuses to stay buried. And here is why it echoes so loudly. Around that same era, the entire world watched cracks form in public view. The infamous elevator footage of Solange swinging at Jay-Z while Beyonce stood frozen in the corner was an image so bizarre it launched 1,000 theories about what could possibly make family turn on family inside a sealed metal box. Years later, Beyonce answered none of it directly. She released Lemonade instead, an entire album constructed around a husband's betrayal, and the world collectively agreed to call it art therapy rather than testimony. Beyonce converted suspicion into a Grammy moment. Jay-Z converted it into an apology album, and the machine kept right on moving. But Jaguar's camp has always pointed back at that era and asked the obvious question. If the whispers about Jay-Z's women were loud enough to fill an elevator and an entire double album, what else was happening underneath all of it that never made it into the music? Which brings us to the name that chills this entire story down to the bone. Kathy White. Now, according to reporting that has circulated for years, Kathy White entered the picture after Jaguar, and clearly she never got whatever memo she was supposed to get. Kathy was reportedly a well-connected publicist moving through elite circles, and the allegation was that she was not only involved with Jay-Z, she was allegedly carrying his child, and she was allegedly getting ready to tell the whole world about it. And understand, this is not free-floating internet gossip with no anchor underneath it. A journalist named Liz Crokin has publicly stated that she had an interview lined up with Kathy specifically about the alleged affair with Jay-Z, literally days before Kathy turned up dead. Listen to how Crokin described it. She said Kathy was willing to consider telling her story on the record, which in her view strongly suggested the affair was real, because why else would a woman agree to go on the record about something like that? Crokin said they spoke, that Kathy was seriously weighing it. Then a few days passed, and when Crokin followed up, the calls started going nowhere. Phone ringing, no answer, day after day. She thought that was strange, because Kathy was the type who always answered her work phone. Always. So Crokin reached out to one of Kathy's colleagues, and when she finally got a human being on the line, they told her the words nobody ever expects to hear. Kathy was gone. Officially, the cause was reported as a brain aneurysm. A young, reportedly healthy woman, days away from allegedly blowing up the most protected image in entertainment, suddenly gone from an aneurysm. And look, aneurysms happen. Nobody here is a doctor. But the timing of it is the exact kind of thing that has kept this story breathing for over a decade. Run the sequence back slowly. A woman allegedly pregnant by a married superstar. A journalist circling. An on-the-record interview being arranged. And then, before a single word reaches the public, silence. Permanent silence. Whether you believe in coincidence or not, that is the kind of timing that turns a rumor into a legend. And here is the part almost nobody talks about. Jaguar has said she actually played a small role in helping that situation early on, reportedly before she ever learned Kathy had died. But once the news reached her, everything changed. Jaguar has flatly stated she never bought the aneurysm explanation. Not for 1 second. And she has publicly, repeatedly pointed the finger at Beyonce and Jay-Z, alleging they were behind it. When she talks about it, she does not hedge. She has referred to Kathy White on camera as Jay-Z's pregnant mistress, who died of what she sarcastically called an imaginary aneurysm. And in the same breath, she invoked another name. The woman close to Kim and Kimura who wrote the book Bling and reportedly died right after it hit the bestseller list. Jaguar connects dots that most people are too afraid to even look at. Two women. Two wildly convenient exits. Two stories that allegedly threaten the same address. And if you think this woman is afraid of consequences, listen to how she talks. She has said, essentially, that there is nobody to report any of this to. You cannot go to the boss, because the boss is the person you would be reporting. You cannot go to the authorities, because in her words, they are bought and paid for. She taunts the machine directly, telling Jay-Z he cannot quantify her, cannot control her, that he cannot even control his own household. So how exactly does he plan to handle somebody like her? That is not the language of a woman running a grift. That is the language of a woman who believes she has nothing left to lose. Which brings us to the heart of this entire nightmare. The child. The son Jaguar allegedly had with Jay-Z is believed to be her late son, Giovanni. And here is a detail that makes people sit straight up in their chair. Giovanni was the oldest of Jaguar's children. Now, according to the official reports, Giovanni was killed during an incident outside a hotel in Arlington, Texas, back in 2018. He was 25 years old. Police reportedly found him in the hotel parking lot around 1 in the morning, suffering from a gunshot wound. He was rushed to a hospital, but he did not make it. The reports say multiple groups of men had shown up to a birthday party at that hotel. Tensions spilled into the parking lot, and a fight broke out. Witness accounts allegedly described Giovanni displaying a firearm that had reportedly been stolen out of Louisiana before tucking it back into his waistband. Another man allegedly pulled a weapon and shot him. Giovanni reportedly fired back. Police later pulled over a vehicle connected to the scene and reportedly found marijuana and a rifle, both also allegedly reported stolen out of Louisiana. And here is the detail Jaguar cannot let go of. As of the most recent reporting on that case, nobody has ever been arrested for her son's death. 6 years and counting. An unsolved case. A named individual reportedly connected to it. And silence. And the details of that investigation only make the silence heavier. According to the reporting around the case, there was a named individual connected to what happened that night. A man she has publicly referred to by name while accusing the system of protecting him. Witnesses were there. Vehicles were stopped. Evidence was reportedly recovered, including stolen firearms traced back to Louisiana. And yet, the case sits in a drawer. For most families, an unsolved killing is a wound that never closes. For Jaguar, it became something else entirely. It became evidence. Every month that passed without an arrest, in her mind, was not incompetence. It was allegedly protection. And whether you believe her theory or not, ask yourself honestly what you would believe if your child was killed. A suspect's name floated around for years, and nobody with authority ever seemed interested in picking the file back up. Grief does strange things to people, but so does being ignored. Now, the official story says random parking lot violence. Tragic, chaotic, senseless. But Jaguar is not buying the official story. Not even a little. According to her, the real reason no arrest has ever been made is that it was allegedly never random at all. She alleges that Beyonce had people take Giovanni out as punishment, as payback for Jaguar refusing to honor that alleged deal, for refusing to stay quiet about everything she knows. And she has not whispered this once and walked it back. She has pushed this allegation repeatedly, publicly, for years, framing her son's death as an alleged setup directed from the very top. Back in 2020, she posted a long, raw statement that told you exactly where her head was. She said that when her son was killed in that back parking lot in Arlington, a few things became crystal clear to her. Number 1, that nobody really cares, not even her own family. Number 2, that the people who claim to care have a funny way of showing it. And number 3, the one she called the most important of all, that the Tarrant County DA's office would allegedly rather let a named suspect walk free than prosecute a case she claims would rip the lid off corruption inside Tarrant County public offices. Read that again. A mother is not just grieving. She is alleging a cover-up stretching from the crime scene all the way to the courthouse. And this is the part of the story where you have to talk about the machine itself, because no honest conversation about these allegations gets to dodge it. Beyonce is not just a singer. Jay-Z is not just a rapper. Together, they sit on top of an ecosystem. Management, streaming, touring, a sports agency, spirits, fashion, philanthropy, a web of relationships so wide that nearly everybody holding a microphone in this industry is, in some way, one phone call away from owing the Carters something. That is the environment every single one of Jaguar's claims has had to survive inside of. Radio hosts who used to book her stopped calling. Platforms that once amplified her voice suddenly found her too hot to touch. She has alleged for years that none of it was organic, that doors did not close on their own, they were closed. And skeptics hear that and call it paranoia. But then those same skeptics watched a global broadcaster issue an on-air apology within days of her interview airing. And suddenly paranoia started looking a whole lot like pattern recognition. Power does not need to leave fingerprints to be visible. Sometimes power is just the silence of everybody who used to answer your calls. And there is one more thread that keeps people up at night, and it is the oldest one in this entire file. Long before Jaguar ever said a single word in public, the name Jay-Z was already circulating through the oldest whisper networks in the industry. The same whisper networks that talked for decades about other titans before the rest of the world finally caught up. That does not make any single allegation true. But it does explain why, every time a new chapter drops, a lawsuit filed and dismissed, a name surfacing in a document, an interview like Jaguar's going viral, millions of people do not react with shock. They react with recognition. The most chilling sentence in this whole saga is not anything Jaguar ever said. It is the sentence millions of viewers type underneath every video like this one, over and over and over. We have been hearing this for years. And then came the revelation that turned this from a tragedy into something straight out of a horror film. Jaguar revealed that Giovanni had actually interned at Roc Nation. Let that sink in slowly. The son she allegedly had with Jay-Z, working inside Jay-Z's own company. And according to Jaguar, while Giovanni was inside that building, he was allegedly approached about taking part in something unthinkable. She claims he was approached to sacrifice her, his own mother, and she says he refused. And not long after, he was found dying in a parking lot at 1 in the morning. When Jaguar sat down for an interview and was asked to speak on it, she did not stutter. She said her son died because he was her son. Targeted, she said, because he was hers. She talked about how Giovanni was working on his EP, how she bought him a place in Philadelphia so he would never have to sign to any company, because she said she already knew what this industry would do to him. And then she said it plainly. He interned at Roc Nation, and they approached him to sacrifice her. A mother, on camera, saying she believes her child was marked because of who his mother is, and allegedly because of who his father is. Now, if even half of this is accurate, then whoever allegedly made the decision to go after Giovanni made one catastrophic miscalculation. Because the intention, if you follow Jaguar's version, was allegedly to break her, to silence her, to make an example out of her. Instead, it did the exact opposite. It took a woman who was already talking and turned her into a woman with absolutely nothing left to protect. And that is reportedly a massive part of why she escalated the whole thing onto a national stage, taking her allegations about Beyonce and Jay-Z onto Piers Morgan's show, in front of millions of viewers. And what happened after that Piers Morgan appearance tells you almost as much as the appearance itself. The segment went instantly nuclear. Clips flying across every platform. Jaguar naming Beyonce and Jay-Z in the same breath as the darkest allegations in the industry. And then, within days, something remarkable happened. Piers Morgan came back on air and issued an apology. A full public apology, after the Carter's lawyers reportedly made contact. Her segment was cut, the episode was scrubbed, and the machine closed ranks. Now, to some people, that apology was proof the allegations were baseless. But to everybody already following this story, it looked like something else entirely. It looked like reach. It looked like a reminder that when Beyonce and Jay-Z feel threatened, entire broadcast networks move. Jaguar's response was exactly what you would expect. She treated the apology as confirmation, and she got louder. And on that stage, she did not just talk about her son. She went after the entire architecture. According to Jaguar, Jay-Z and Beyonce allegedly poured millions of dollars into helping take down R. Kelly and Diddy, and not, she says, out of some sudden love for victims. She alleges it was about erasing proximity, burying any trail that could lead back to them before authorities started connecting dots. She claimed publicly that the surviving R. Kelly campaign, spearheaded by Dream Hampton, was allegedly financed and run by Sean Carter, that the money and machinery behind it traced back to Jay-Z, who she points out was actually in the rooms with Robert Kelly back in the day. And she asked the question that hangs over everything. How does Jay-Z sit across from Gayle King for a televised interview and not get asked a single question about the intersection between him, Aaliyah, and R. Kelly? She calls it insane that people keep refusing to see what is sitting right there in plain sight. And she did not stop there. She laid out a theory of the industry itself. That Diddy did not appear out of nowhere. That he was, in her words, designed to become what he became, taught systematically by mentors like Clive Davis. And then she connected the names that make people flinch. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Kelly, Sean Combs. And she said that professionally and privately, all of them allegedly have one person in common. Sean Carter, Jay-Z. And when she was asked whether Diddy, cornered the way he has been, might start revealing things about other people, her answer was ice cold. She said he has no choice. That his ego and his addictions will not allow him to do anything different. And that anybody who thinks he is not going to talk is crazy. And that is the thing people keep missing when they write Jaguar off. She did not start with Beyonce and Jay-Z. Her list of names reads like a Hall of Fame. She has publicly taken swings at Common, at The Roots, at Jill Scott, at Boyz II Men, and at Diddy, long before the rest of the world caught up to what federal prosecutors would eventually put into an indictment. And here is the uncomfortable part for her critics. Some of what she said years ago, in rooms where people laughed at her, has aged disturbingly well. She was talking about Diddy's alleged behavior when talking about it could still end a career. She was describing industry protection systems before documentaries started winning awards for describing the same systems. That track record is exactly why her allegations about Jay-Z and Beyonce refused to die. If she had been wrong about everything else, all of this would be easy to dismiss. She has not been wrong about everything else. And so every time she opens her mouth about the Carters, a certain corner of the internet leans in. Not because she has proven her case, but because she has spent years proving she is willing to say the things everybody else is paid not to say. So let's recap the shape of this thing. An alleged secret child. An alleged deal to make that child disappear. An alleged mistress dead days before going public. And a son shot down in a parking lot, whose case has sat unsolved for 6 long years. Any single one of those threads would be a scandal on its own. Woven together, they form the darkest picture anybody has ever painted of the Carter Empire. But just when it felt like this story had hit its ceiling, it detonated from the one direction absolutely nobody saw coming. Inside Jaguar's own house, Jaguar's other son, Sam Odom Jr., came out publicly, and he did not come to defend her. He came to put his own mother on blast. According to Sam, the entire crusade, the exposes, the interviews, the war against Beyonce and Jay-Z, is not really about justice for Giovanni at all. In his telling, it is about a woman who never made it as big as the star she attacks, who is allegedly using the celebrity exposure machine to finally grab the fame she has always been desperate for. He even accused her of being the same kind of witch she claims Beyonce is, and alleged that she used his dead older brother, and even Sam himself, as bait, to cover up dark things she has allegedly been involved in for years. And Sam did not arrive with vague accusations. He arrived with a whole psychological framework, and honestly, it is as fascinating as it is heartbreaking. He explained that this was the first time he had lived with his mother since around December of 2017. That before that, he spent school years with his father and holidays with his mother, except he claims those holidays were, quote-unquote, extended. Times where she allegedly effectively held on to him, which he said could arguably be considered kidnapping. When asked about her claim that he is autistic, he flatly denied it, saying no doctor has ever confirmed any such diagnosis, that he is simply socially awkward, and that she told him he was autistic for years without anything to back it up. And then he said something that tells you everything about what growing up inside that storm did to him. Sam said the only way he can deal with his mother without losing himself is that he has split her into 2 separate people. There is Jacqueline Suzette Wright, her legal government name. And then there is Jaguar Wright, the persona, the stage name, the internet phenomenon. He said he loves Jacqueline Suzette Wright with every bit of his being, in spite of everything she has done, because that is his mother. But Jaguar Wright, the character, is someone he says he abhors. And then he gave what he called the Cliff Notes version of how he sees the Jaguar persona. And it was surgical. He called her an overpossessive siren who lures people who try to be kind to her into her den, and guards what she owns, whether that is wealth, or even her own sons, dead or alive, the way a dragon guards a hoard of gold. He called her a vindictive thief who nurses bad blood for over a decade and steals from those she hates out of pure spite. He called her a dead son of narcissism, a child so overfueled with worship from her parents before she even hit double digits that she grew up believing she was a shining star in the cosmos, when in his words, she actually burned out. And finally, he called her a hyperbolic criminal wearing the mask of a cultist, someone who blows everything so far out of proportion that the truth gets buried under the spectacle deliberately, so that all the attention always stays on her. That is not a tabloid source. That is not a random hater. That is her own son, calmly dismantling her on camera. And yet, and this is what makes this entire saga so impossible to cleanly untangle, even inside that scorched earth takedown, Sam accidentally confirmed something. Because some of what he described lines up with the strangest chapters of Jaguar's public behavior. A few years back, a video of Jaguar went viral that people still cannot fully explain. She was seen blowing her dead son's ashes onto people, and then pouring the rest of them over herself. Ritualistic. Shocking. Deeply unsettling to watch. Even her harshest critics and her most loyal defenders looked at that footage and landed on the same reaction. Whatever is going on with this woman, it is not simple. And maybe that is exactly the point. Because when you step back and survey the entire battlefield, what you actually see are 2 completely incompatible stories. In one version, Jaguar Wright is a traumatized mother whose son was allegedly taken from her by the most powerful couple in music. A woman who allegedly watched a fellow mistress die under mysterious circumstances, who allegedly turned down the deal of a lifetime because of what she witnessed, and who has spent years screaming into a hurricane because nobody with power will ever hold the powerful accountable. In the other version, she is a brilliant but bitter performer who lost her shot at stardom, lost her son to random street violence she cannot accept as random, and allegedly built a second career out of aiming grief and fury at the biggest targets in the industry, with even her own surviving son calling her an opportunist. Here's the thing, though. Both of those versions can contain true pieces at the same time. A woman can be unreliable and still have been wronged. A mother can be dramatic and still be grieving something real. And an empire can look spotless in public and still have a graveyard of whispers behind it. The Kathy White case was real. A real journalist. A real scheduled interview. A real death days before it happened. Giovanni's case is real. A real parking lot. A real 25-year-old. A real 6 years without an arrest. The timeline of Jaguar and Jay-Z's 2001 connection is real. The MTV Unplugged session happened. The album happened. The tour happened. The vanished record deal happened. The dots are real. The only question is what picture they actually make when you connect them, and who gets to hold the pen. And let's talk about that empire for one more moment, because the silence coming from the Carter side is its own character in this story. Through years of allegations, the rumored mistresses, the alleged hidden children, the paternity test rumors that have swirled around other claimants, the alleged industry sabotage, the names surfacing in documents and call logs and lawsuits that get dismissed or quietly settled, the Carter strategy has never once changed. No direct response. No sit-down denial. Just lawyers, silence, and another flawless public appearance. And that strategy has a long track record. Go back to 2014 and the elevator incident, the single most explosive piece of raw footage ever attached to the Carter name. And notice what Beyonce and Jay-Z actually did. Nothing. No press conference. No denial. No lawsuit. A joint statement days later, a few carefully chosen words about family, and then silence until the story suffocated. 2 years later, when the entire world was dissecting Jay-Z's alleged infidelity, Beyonce did not grant a single interview about it. She released Lemonade and let the art absorb the impact, converting what could have been a humiliation into the most acclaimed chapter of her career. Jay-Z waited years, then released his own album answering it. On their terms. On their label. On their schedule. That is the playbook. Never fight a story in the open. Outlast it. Absorb it. Monetize it. And it has worked every single time. Which is exactly what makes the Jaguar situation so unusual, because she is not a tabloid cycle. She does not expire. She has been telling the same core story for years, and instead of fading, her audience keeps growing. The playbook was built for scandals with news cycles. It was never built for a woman who believes the people on the other side of it had her son killed. You cannot outlast somebody who has already decided she has nothing left to protect. Beyonce and Jay-Z have built what might be the most disciplined public relations fortress in the history of entertainment. A machine so airtight that even Piers Morgan's own show reportedly had to walk it back and apologize after Jaguar's appearance went nuclear. Think about that. A major broadcaster apologizing to the Carters, while the woman making the claims keeps talking, keeps posting, keeps daring somebody, anybody, to sue her for defamation. And so far, nobody has. Make of that what you will, because defamation law cuts both ways, and everybody watching this saga knows it. If a public figure is truly being lied about, in ways that allegedly accuse them of the worst crimes imaginable, the courtroom is right there. It happens all the time in Hollywood. Cease and desist letters fly within hours over far less. Yet year after year, the response from the Carter camp has been silence, and according to critics, pressure applied behind the curtain instead. Jaguar says the machine cannot quantify her and cannot control her. The machine, for its part, acts like she does not exist. And caught in the middle of that staring contest are the rest of us, trying to figure out whether we are watching the bravest whistleblower in music history or the most heartbreaking collapse this industry has ever produced in public. Now, as you can imagine, once all of this started recirculating, the Love Child allegations, the Kathy White timeline, the Roc Nation internship claim, and Sam's devastating interview, social media absolutely erupted. And as usual, the people had thoughts. One viral reply that racked up thousands of likes put it bluntly. Whether or not you believe a single word of the allegations, Beyonce's total silence after years of being accused of the unthinkable is either the most disciplined PR strategy ever executed, or the loudest answer in the entire story. Another person wrote that they grew up worshipping the Carters, and that watching this unfold felt like finding out the museum was built on a graveyard. And a third comment cut the other way entirely, arguing that Jaguar has named so many enemies over so many years that some of her stories were bound to collide with reality eventually, and that a broken clock with a grudge is still a broken clock. The argument underneath every single one of those comments is the same. Nobody can figure out where the performance ends and the truth begins. One commenter wrote, "They took her child, she has nothing left to lose, and that is pure pain." Another said they had no idea about any of this, and that they finally understand the fire in her soul. But not everybody is sold. Others pushed back hard, saying grief does not turn accusations into evidence, that a mother's pain deserves compassion, but extraordinary claims still need proof. And then there is the camp in the middle, The people saying that whether Jaguar is right, wrong, or somewhere in between. The questions she is asking about power, silence, and who gets protected in this industry are questions worth asking out loud. Because here is what is undeniable. Something is off about all of it. 6 years without an arrest in Giovanni's case is off. A woman dying days before a scheduled interview about an alleged affair with a billionaire is off. A record deal vanishing overnight for an artist at her peak is off. And a son disowning his own mother's public persona while still loving her private self. That is off in the saddest way possible. None of it proves the allegations. But all of it guarantees this story is not going anywhere. Because Jaguar Wright is still out there, still talking, still naming names, still daring the machine to come shut her up. Beyonce and Jay-Z are still on the throne, still silent, still untouchable in public. And somewhere between those two facts sits a parking lot in Arlington, Texas, where a 25-year-old man took his last breath, and where, depending on who you believe, either a random tragedy ended a life, or a message was sent that a mother was never supposed to survive hearing. But now I want to hear from you, because this one is genuinely splitting the room. Do you think Jaguar Wright is a fearless truth-teller who lost everything for refusing to stay silent? Or do you think her own son had it right, and this is grief weaponized into a fame machine? And what do you make of the Kathy White timeline, and the fact that nobody from the Carter camp has ever taken any of this to court? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want to go even deeper down this rabbit hole, click the video on your screen right now, because what Jaguar allegedly revealed about Diddy's inner circle makes everything you just heard look like the opening chapter. I will see you over there. And one last thing before you go, because there is a question hiding underneath every single chapter of this story that almost nobody asks out loud. Why does this keep happening? Why does the same silhouette, powerful man, protected woman, silenced accuser, vanished file, keep reappearing across decades, across industries, across cities? Whether the answer involves the Carters or not, the pattern itself is real. And the next time a voice like hers gets laughed out of the room, remember how many times the laughter aged badly. Keep your eyes open. Keep the receipts. And keep asking the questions the machine hopes you will get too tired to ask.